Here at the Independence Reformed Bible Church, we allow for questions following the sermon. Who this morning has the first question? John.
More comment. We talked about an assembly of one, and at the same time you were talking about songs and Christian songs. There's no harmony in an assembly of one.
True.
There's a song, and it's not to say that there's no worship in your life in a solitary mode, but it's fuller and more beautiful if it's done in harmony with others. Just another point, kind of mixing the two.
Good point. You can't have harmony with one.
Right.
Yeah, I've tried that before. I got into this annoying thing that I did, and I stopped doing it because I was no good at it. If you ever tried it, it's this. If you ever tried to do it, I'm almost ashamed to say it, where you whistle and hum at the same time. Have you ever heard somebody do that? It's completely annoying. Yeah. Well, you can't whistle like I was better. I could only whistle decently with the air going in, like that was coming in. I can also do a little bit going out, but see, it's not as good, right? So I would do this and like sing a song. It was just extremely annoying. Like like I'm singing and whistling at the same time. Can you imagine anything that annoying? Especially when, and it was definitely not harmonious. And my career as a singer and whistler was cut short prior to its inaugural introduction to the world, I'm afraid. But it's true. And music itself, it argues for God in this sense. Ultimately, you argue back and back and back. And you have to start with God. Why are some notes harmonious and other notes are not? You ever ask yourself that? Why is it that you can't sing off key? Who cares about key, right? We can decide whatever we want. Why is some sounds not harmonious and some sounds are? It can only be because there's a God in heaven who has set things up that way. That's it. There's no other answer here. Love good music. Messiah, really good music. Someone else. Yeah, John.
You made a comment. You said that it's easier to destroy than it is to create. You just kind of threw that in there, but is there any context to that?
Yeah, I was talking in the context of art, if you will. Maybe I'll use a well, I guess in a simple sense, you can put all kinds of sculptures, paintings, or so forth in a museum, for example. A lot of work in that museum. Not that hard to burn it down, if you will. And what I think is happening now with art is we have had tremendous artists in the past. Talk about music this morning, Bach and Handel, tremendous artists. It's not that hard, though, to see what's happening now. And the thing that's kind of heartbreaking for me in Christian circles, to be honest with you, without going into it too deeply, but a lot of what passes for Christian worship art is so forgettable, and oftentimes they can't even rhyme. I mean, I see the destruction of good Christian art going on right in front of us in our churches. It's a lot easier because half the stuff. I mean, I've heard tunes that I wouldn't even send to the publisher. They'd be in the trash can. And I'm like, how did this tune get published and get copywritten here? And it's so forgettable. Have you ever, I won't ask for a show of hands. Maybe, we already have one. You know what I'm going to say. Get one of these really bad Christian tunes in your head, and you can't get rid of it. Wow. Well, we have so many to choose from, it seems to me now. It's hard. It's hard for me to deal with thinking of the rich history that we have. And Schmidt talks about this fact that it took a while to even discover the octave, for example. Because when you're only singing one tune, and everybody's singing in unison one tune, you don't understand the octave. But at some point, it was monks that discovered the octave, and that you could sing. I guess scientifically, it's double the amount of waves, sine waves, or whatever, that this thing existed. And so it's taken so much work to develop the understanding of the octave, develop the understanding of polyphonic singing. And it seems like we're just willing to kind of give the back of our hands and throw it all away. That's what it looks to me like. I'd like to really be wrong on that point. Yes, Jim.
Well, just to
And
that
then-
point, there's a whole generation of children growing up in the church now, or even older, teenagers, who don't even recognize the vast majority of the hymns that have been handed down to us for centuries. And nobody seems to think that that's a problem.
Yeah, because we can make them up today and we're just as good, right? Not hardly. Not in my experience. I mean, seriously, a mighty fortress is our God. We'll throw that one away.
They don't even recognize it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Dalton.
just a more answer, like with the, it's easier to destroy than to make. I can understand because I do kind of songwriting. Basically, with that, what I would say is it's much easier to destroy because all you got to do with destroying is easy. You just got to put in how you feel about it and that kind of stuff. It's much harder to make it biblical, to actually make it make sense and make it flow, versus than just to do whatever you want, which is with the heart. That's easy. I can do that in a heartbeat, but it's much harder to actually make it biblical and make it sense and make it beautiful and to glorify the Lord. That's how I would, and that's how I see it, and it makes sense to me when you say that type of thing. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks.
I didn't want to get into the art, but I got into the art of the sermon probably a little more than I wanted to. It's hard to stay away from it. Yes.
I think the other thing is with modern music is I read an article a few weeks ago, I'm not sure what it was, but there's no reverence of God anymore. The Jews had high reverence. When they would come to the word Yahweh, they would go and change clothes and be holy when they come back and write it. They would have a new pen. There was so much reverence for the Word of God and for singing His things and writing His things. Nowadays, you stand there and you repeat a line 10 times. Holy is our God, or whatever it is nowadays with these modern people, and they have no reverence, no respect.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is something that we really have to consider here. It seems, not just in the music, but it seems like in the modern, it seems like God is becoming more and more like us. Does anybody else notice that? By the time we're done, He kind of looks like us. And I believe it's an attack on grace. Because if God is just like us, where's the grace? Grace is not that great anymore. Because we're God, us, God, we're kind of all the same. And I do believe it's being reflected not just in our music, but in our art and in our preaching. And it's not a good development. Yes?
When we lower our view of God, it's an attack on His sovereignty. We're saying, well, you're not in charge of everything. If we grasp who He is and what He does and how He upholds all things by the word of His power, we have to revere Him.
Yeah, as sovereign. See, that's the thing. And oftentimes, so often, he said the sovereign one, right? And here's the thing, and I hope we can really get a hold of this. The gods of the nations were always great. It's not just a great God, but the gods of the nations were never sovereign. See the difference? This is the sovereign God. And if we just worship him as great, that's not good enough. Because he's not just great, he's sovereign, which is what separates him from everyone else. And you're right, John. Sovereignty in our worship and music, we say it, we really get it. I hope we get it. We have to get it. We must get it. My son, I want to thank you for your kind attention to this morning.